Right, hi guys, welcome back to the Moaning Yorkshireman and welcome back to another video on the Chevrolet Matiz. Now that sounds surprising, doesn't it? But my god, did I have some comments the other day and suddenly I realised that these videos of the 5 things I love and hate about this heap of shit actually got 600 views each, which is mental, more than that thing. So that thing is not as popular on YouTube as it appears to be. So I told you, the women love it. The women love this car. So obviously a few shout outs to mention first. One is from a guy called Bob who says he wants to see more videos because it's going to be his first car, he's going to pick it up soon, and he wants to just see a general look around a Matiz because he's excited for it to be his first car. Well, I was excited for it to be my first car, so much so I've still got it nearly 8 years later. So yeah, all good there, Bob. Thanks very much for the comments. And also someone said I don't look 17 stone, I look quite slim. Well, thank you very much. If you're female, hook me up in the DMs, hon. And also a guy called Paul didn't like it at all, the previous videos. And he said he switched off after the second effing. What can I say, Paul? 2 out of 3 ain't bad, is it, pal? But if you don't like it, tough shit. Oh dear, swore not to Paul's liking. Must be part of the Matiz Owners Club. Anyway, today in this video I'm going to be showing you everything that's wrong with my Chevrolet Matiz. It's not really things to pick out on or to say this is what is common with them, because I don't know. I've just had it so long, I've not really looked after it too much. It's just been a workhorse for the past 7 years, going on 8 years now. And yeah, it isn't a recommendation to look out for or to watch out for. It's just basically everything that's wrong with my car for various reasons, mainly the way I drive it, to be honest. But you know, going from that to that is interesting. So we're going to take a look around. I'm going to show you everything that's wrong. So the first thing to point out on what is wrong with my Chevrolet Matiz is, I don't know if you can notice that, but the power steering fluid is just below minimum, and that's because I have a power steering fluid leak on it from the rack itself. Now I did get a new rack a couple of years ago, so that was due to the fact that it had worn out completely inside and had properly buggered up. So it was an MOT failure massively because it was just wanking around and not really doing much steering, so that's why I was understeering roundabouts. But the new one got put in, and then just as it went out of warranty, which is standard obviously, it developed a leak, and the leak is coming from the joint itself, so it just dribbles out a little bit of fluid every now and again. And only a little bit, so I always fill it up to max, and it's normally about 6 to 8 weeks before I need to put another drop in. So I bought a tub of it, a power steering fluid, about a year ago now, and I've still half full. So it only dribbles a little bit. So my dad's a bit annoyed because it's the only car that leaks now in the family, and I'm making a mess of his drive. But apart from that, that's all good. Not really had any other problems under the bonnet, so to speak. That is a trooper. That is now a new battery, but this car has saved so many cars in its life, it's unbelievable. The previous battery, bearing in mind it's that big, I saved 11 cars with it. It saved 11 cars. I had to jump start me auntie twice, my cousin a couple of times, people from work a few times. A mental amount of cars that this car has saved. So it's like Thunderbird 1 really. It's like a really shit Tracy Island. But yeah, so that's a positive. That's its second battery in its life since I've owned it, and yeah, it's saved many cars. I've just noticed that's missing. That's for the air filter. We don't need to worry about that. It's not performance-y. But no, there's nothing really wrong under here. The washer bottle, I should say. You can only fit not a lot of water in it, so you're constantly filling that up during winter. When you get stuck behind a tractor or something, or a lorry, it's throwing shit up everywhere. So always keep an eye on that, because that empties quickly. Again, I might have a leak. I don't know. But nothing else to point out really from here. Tyres, they're not too bad on tyres, don't wear out. Obviously, as I previously mentioned, it's chewed a lot of wheel bearings, but it could be my driving style. Thing to notice here, as you can see, rust. And all the shit from the road gathers behind it and does that. And that's not good. So always check that that's clean. Oh, look at that, nasty, innit? But yeah, always make sure that there's not really much rust coming through there. I mean, it's not bad, it's only a little bit. It's just this side at the minute, but always when you clean your car, make sure you get a good wash under there to get all that shit out. Look, there's still more coming out now. It's absolutely caked in stuff. So yeah, just always make sure that that's done. And yeah, your car will be looking nicer for a bit longer. Not too bad on fuel, but not as good as you'd expect, to be honest. I tend to get about, well, I do rag it though, so it's probably my fault. But you tend to get about between 35 and 40 miles per gallon, depending on how I drive it. I'm trying to hold my camera now with dirty fingers. And it's a white camera, so that's not helpful. Only problem to point out on here, it probably won't do it because it's the camera. But the fuel gauge wangles around. It doesn't work properly anymore. It does work at certain times when it feels like it, but for the most part, it doesn't bother. You'll be driving, it'll just be going empty, full, empty, full, empty, full. And yeah, it just decides to do it because it can. As you can see, the mileage on it, I'd love to see if there were a Chevrolet Matiz that's got more mileage on it than that. I did see one on Auto Trader that had 118,000 on it, but God, that was knackered. Especially for an 09 plate as well. So yeah, that wangles around, but that's intermittent. So what I do is I just go on to the mileage. So that's how much I've done so far on the tank. Ignore it because it probably isn't right. But yeah, I'll zero the trip clocks. I can normally get about 300, maybe just more than 300 on a tank, and I use that as a gauge now. So if you're having any fuel problems, you've got 2 trip clocks there to measure it yourself. Fill it up full, see how many miles you get out of it, and then work it out from there. There's no other problems in here, really, to be honest. If I turn this on, if I turn the lights on, I don't think you can make it out. But as you can see, that's lit up, and that isn't on the rev counter. That went ages ago, but it's not a failure, and it doesn't really bother you because it's the rev counter, so you can see anyway. But that went a while back. There's fuses down there and a penny, in case I ever go over on petrol. But the fuses are down there because the headlights used to blow on this car. Not the headlights itself, but the headlight fuse. And it was really weird, it was really intermittent. So we got an auto electrician out to look at it. He couldn't find anything wrong with the car. And then he just stopped blowing the fuses after I put a 15 amp in it. And it blew the 15 amp, and it should have had a 10 amp in it. So I put a 10 amp back in it, never had a problem with it again. So I don't know what that's all about. The only thing that would be worth mentioning for anyone wanting to buy these cars is the fact that there has been a recall done on the Chevrolet and Matizes, which is for the brake servo. Apparently it sticks on some cars and causes you to have reduced braking. So not ideal. If obviously it does need the recall, the way to check is obviously just put your registration in, and it'll on the government website, and it'll pop up saying no outstanding recalls, or it will be there saying recall and it needs doing. If it needs doing, just find your local dealer that deals with Chevrolets, obviously because they're not manufacturer supported anymore by Chevrolet. It's more difficult the more spread out around the country. I had to go to Huddersfield for mine, which was about an hour away, but I did Perry's Vauxhall at Huddersfield. And it costs you absolutely nothing. It's free to do. We had a day in Huddersfield while we were there. It only took them a few hours, but we made the best of it. So, you know, just bear that in mind if you're buying it. Just have a check on that recall. Completely free. If anything goes wrong, they'll help you out, give you a courtesy car to get home or whatever. I had that on the Mazda actually for its recall. But yeah, you know, so don't be frightened to get it done. Just get it done. What they'll do is they'll replace the brake servo for you free of charge. Obviously, if it does need replacing, if it's not ones that do need replacing, if it's not the right batch number, they will change your brake fluid anyway. So it's worth doing just for peace of mind, really. So just to bear that in mind. And for Bob, the guy that was nice enough to comment and say, I want some more Chevrolet Matiz videos. I did a few others. I'm surprised. People have said that there's no Matiz videos on YouTube, and I didn't believe them, but I've looked and yeah, there isn't. So, but yeah, as for Bob, the guy that said and suggested do more videos on this because he's excited for it to be his first car, you won't really have any dramas with it. The only problem that you've got this day and age with them is that there's no Chevrolet in the UK anymore. Parts are getting a little bit more scarce, but not too bad. You know, there's nothing drastically major that you're going to need. You still get your servicing bits, you can still get stuff that you're going to need for it, general maintenance wise. And my horror stories with this car are like the rear stub axle failing and stuff like that. It's just one of them things. I wouldn't let it put you off it because it's your first car. I mean, I've been driving up and down the country with this thing, especially when I used to be in motorsport. It used to be going to race circuits everywhere. It was doing 500-600 miles a week in this car. A car that's meant for pottering around the shops with Ethel and Edith going for a weekly coffee. So, you know, don't let it put you off your very first time car. It's a solid enough car. It's got a lot of body roll. As you can see, not much effort there, and it's rolling like a bastard. But you know, when the Matiz is rocking, don't come knocking, as they say. So yeah, so honest to God, mate, you won't have any problems with it. But yeah, as for everyone else that's watching this video that thinks, why the fuck's he doing another Matiz video? Someone wanted it, a couple of people wanted it, and I thought I'd do it. So if it helps some people out, then why not? So yeah, that's pretty much everything wrong with my Matiz. There's not a lot wrong with it. It's a fairly solid car. I've never planned on getting rid of it. I have had a couple of expensive repair bills over the time. The rear stub axle was one of them. But for the amount of mileage I've done in it and the amount of times I thrash it, and it's always on or off power with this thing. I'm never gentle. I'm always understeering around roundabouts. So yeah, for what I've done in it, it's a brilliant car, and you can sometimes just have as much fun in this as I can in the RX-8. So you know, just bear that in mind for people that think, you know, power's everything. It really isn't. There's a couple of roundabouts around my end where this is faster than the RX-8, because with that being rear-wheel drive on slippy conditions, you're just going to curb it. Whereas this, I can just understeer and just correct the understeer from there. So yeah, this is just a bit of an all-rounder as to everything that's wrong with my Chevrolet Matiz. Like I say, it's not really to look out for, but if it helps you, then, you know, you've done well. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and much love.